Okay, we are here with Judith Lynn Thorne Wagoner, my mother, and this is part 8 of her life interview. And this time, our first question is, what was it like having Dex as your first grandchild?
Well, when he was born in November of 1998, he was the biggest thrill we'd ever had, other than having Doris, and that was so many years before that, I didn't think anything could ever top having my own child. And no, I can't say that Dex topped it, but boy, he was right up there. I mean, it was a big thrill to have a little grandson, especially for Darwin, because he was so thrilled to have a little boy in the family anyway. But we were just so happy to see him, and we got to be there when he was born, and I was so thankful that Doris and Dawn had us there with them, and he was such a cute little tiny thing, and we just thoroughly enjoyed his birth. And he grew fast, I'll tell you, and he was, I think, probably about the cutest little boy I've ever seen as growing up. All of his years, he's still good looking to this day, but he was such a cute little thing, and I used to love to take care of him and dress him up, and it was such fun to be with him. And then when he got a little bigger, got to be toddling around and everything, and we enjoyed that. And when the first steps he ever took was at the First Presbyterian Church here in Palm Bay.
Palm Bay.
When Doris was a pastor there, and she was preaching one Sunday, and that church had a little cry room off the sanctuary, and Darwin was back there with Dex. He liked to stay with him, and so after church, I was standing. They had a little kitchen that opened up into the sanctuary, and they would always serve cake or cookies and coffee, and I was standing in there talking to some people, and I happened to look up, and here came Dex with the biggest smile on his face I've ever seen, and he was walking all by himself, and he hadn't done that before. And he came with me, and he came and walked right up to me with that big smile on his face. He was so proud of himself. It was so cute. And Darwin said back in the cry room then, he was playing around, and they were just back there. Darwin's playing with him and everything. And he said all of a sudden, Dex started walking. And he said out of the clear blue, he started toddling around that room. And so Darwin opened the door, and away he went, after church, and came right up to me. And I was thrilled to death that he came to me, because he hadn't seen Doris or Dawn yet. And then we were outside between that church and between that sanctuary, and there was another building which had Sunday school rooms and offices and things. That's where the church office was, I think. And anyway, there was a walkway, big long walkway, because it's a great big yard that went from the sanctuary of the church over to this building. And we were out there, or we were going to go out there, and I don't know if Darwin put him down or if I did, I don't know. Anyway, he was down walking a little bit. Darwin must have, because I was standing almost all the way over to the Sunday school building, and I looked up, and here he came, and he was just really moving fast. And he had this expression on his face like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know if I can stop or not. And it was so cute. And he walked all the way down right toward me then. It was so cute. What a good experience we had. And I'm so sorry that Doris was busy preaching and working, greeting the people, that she didn't get to experience what we did. Of course, she got to experience Dex real quick, but it was so cute the way that happened. And he sure thought he was a great thing, because he could walk. And he loved to play with cars. I think he inherited that somehow from somebody, probably Darwin. but he loved to play with cars. And of course, I think Darwin played with him with cars, and I'm sure Don did too. And so he ended up, and I've still got it today. Darwin made him a little, it looked like a little building with doors on it, and actually it's a seat. It was fixed up where you could sit on it, a little thing. And Darwin put a picture of Dex standing on top of that white car. I don't know if that was our car.
It was your car.
Our car. And on that picture it says Dex's Auto, what?
Depot, I think.
Auto Depot, right. And it was so cute. But anyway, that box to this day is packed with little Matchbox cars that Dex had. And a number of years ago, he was probably when he was moving, maybe to Orlando, maybe, or when he was. Dex was always redoing his room, so it could be when he was fixing something up in there. Anyway, he asked me. He said, "Grandma, do you have room to keep this for me?" And I said, "Sure, I can find room to keep that." And I've got it to this day in one of my closets. And I told him about it not very long ago. I said, "Don't forget, I've got that Dex for you." And he wanted to keep it. Of course, he had outgrown playing with Matchbox cars many years ago. But anyway, Dex was always lots of fun. Darwin just thoroughly enjoyed playing for him. And when Darwin came down with Guillain-Barré, he was crippled and couldn't walk for a long time, although he was able to overcome that and was able to walk, never very steady. And it also affected his arms and his hands and things, but he could use them. It wasn't that he couldn't. But I remember one day I was walked in and he was sitting at his desk in his den, I think, and he had tears in his eyes, and I said, "Well, what's wrong?" And he said, "I can't even throw a ball to Dex." And he was so disappointed in that, And I take that back. That was not at his den. Well, it was. It was at his den when we lived at Sheridan Lakes. And so anyway, he had quite a bout with that. And Dex was so loving to him and talked to him and spent time with Darwin then. And it was so nice of Darwin and Dex to be able to get along together like that. And I'm trying to think of other things we did with Dex. We, at one point, Doris and Dawn, it was before they had Derico, maybe. Dex was riding he rode while we were there in a little tricycle. So we spent some time at my parents up in Illinois. And Dex had such fun. He was so busy doing things, and he found my old tricycle up there. And it was mine, it wasn't one of the girls'. And he got on that thing and pedaled it around. I don't know how old he was, 4 maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4.
No, the only time he was up there without Derica, he was about 6 months or a year.
He was bigger than that because he was riding that. I've got pictures of him riding that tricycle.
Okay. So Derica, for Mama's funeral, Derica was 1.5 years. So he would have been...
Well, maybe that was after...
He would have been 4 or 5.
Yeah, that was probably when...
Okay.
Then while you were up there at her funeral. And anyway, he just had a good time there. Got to be outside. Of course, they had a country home outside, and it was a lovely place, and he got to be out there. And I was glad that he did. I don't know how much of that situation he remembers to this day, but
he remembers the trip when we went up for Mama's funeral.
Yeah.
Yeah, Derica doesn't, but he remembers it.
Okay, all right, and then next, of course, he started school, and I used to babysit them a lot because I lived right down the street, and lots of times in the evening with Doris's job and Don's job, they had somewhere they had to be, and I'd stay with him, and I used to have to really get on to him because he's a stubborn little squirt, he had his own idea about things, but every night when he'd go to bed, I'd tuck them in, both kids, and he would, I always had to sing Amazing Grace to him.
Don did that with him too.
Always had to sing that to him. And
It's on his wall now as an
yeah,
adult.
no, it is.
The sheet music.
And Jessie gave that to him, I think.
No,
Maybe.
I think
Oh,
I did.
you did?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought she did. In his current apartment, is that what you're saying? Yeah.
In his townhome, yeah.
But anyway, we'd always talk. I'd talk to him. And Derica was next door, in the room next door, and then I'd go and tuck her in. And she, or, you know, I'm not sure which one I would do first, you know, whoever was sleepiest, I guess. But she would never, ever let me sing to her. And she didn't want to talk, she didn't want me to pray to her. And I tried, because I always said a prayer for Dex. And I always wanted her to do that. I said, now it's time for prayer. I want to pray for you. She said, I don't want you to, Mama. I don't pray for me. And she never would ever, when she was little like that, never would let me do it. Now I did go ahead and sing to her a lot, but she didn't act like she wanted me to. I don't know. I thought, oh my gosh, what are we raising here? But anyway, it was so
Yeah,
cute.
we didn't have that experience with her.
Yeah, I don't know why she was that way. Unless she knew that I did that with Dex, and maybe, you know, since I did it with him, she didn't want me to do it with her. I don't know what the deal was. I'd
She was
ask her
okay with
one
us
of these
that
days.
way.
Yeah, she wouldn't be that way at all today. But anyway, she was the little sister. And so when she was born, she was so cute.
Are you done with Dex?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
They'll kind of go back and forth. A
Okay.
little bit now.
Yeah, I was gonna say, tell about your experience with your granddaughter.
Yeah, that was a joy when she was born. A beautiful little girl. She was so tiny, and she had a cute little room where she was. She was in Dex's room, and then he had been moved into the. And where was that, Doris? In Palm Bay.
Yeah, it was on Vin Rose. Actually, Awen Drive off of Vin Rose in southeast Palm Bay.
Okay. So anyway, Dex, being the big brother, would pester her. And the way she got around that is to scream at him. Derica really screamed. And I remember telling Doris and Dawn once, I said, Dex is doing her a favor because he's forcing her to exert her independence and to be, you know, take charge in her way. And she did it by screaming.
They're both very
She was
independent.
good at that. But she was cute. Now, they were friends, Dex and Derica, and they did a lot of things together and played together. But Dex was a tease. And boy, as soon as he started teasing her, she'd just scream at him and get in trouble.
But most of the time they got along. They were good
They
kids.
did. Yeah, I think they did get along.
And he helped her a lot, and
they
she
still
enjoyed
do.
following him around.
They still do. As young adults, they're close friends, and they love each other, and I'm so thankful for that. I just am so thankful for that. Anyway, Derica's hair kept growing and growing, and she ended up with this beautiful, long, golden blonde hair. And she was just dainty as she could be, just the ideal little sister, you know. And I don't remember. I don't know if I was working.
No, you weren't working at that time.
I don't remember her first steps or anything like that. I didn't see any of those. One thing I do remember is that Don absolutely adored her. I mean, that was one daddy that adored that little girl. And I'd be there sometimes when he'd first get home in the evening from work. The first thing he'd do, he'd walk in the door and pick up Derica. And she stayed in his arms, I don't know, hours, I think. I don't know how long. And I did feel sorry for Dex.
But he had gotten that when he was an only child.
I'm sure he did. And as soon as Don would do that, Dex, it was cute because Dex would follow them. Don would walk around the house doing things and carrying that baby. And Dex would be right behind him looking up at him. And just like, can't you pick me up too, Daddy? That was just what it looked like, you know. And
Hard to get used to having a little sibling, you know.
Yeah. was cute. It was cute. It was kind of sad in a way too, but I thought, well, he's got to learn, you know, and to share Daddy. And so anyway, Derica, you know, she didn't take her long to be doing things with Dex. She picked up a lot of it from him, you know, and they played together a lot. I know they had a nice backyard, and Dex had one of those little cars that you ride around in, and
Several of them, yeah.
put Derica in. They put Derica in with him, and she'd ride, and they had little pools that they played in, and it was just a delightful experience. And Doris, you could fill in more on what they did. But I, of course, I was working at the time, and I could only see them, you know, when we came over on weekends. Then, what was I going to say? It didn't take Derica long to achieve in school as in kindergarten. She went to preschool too. I know Doris at the Christian church, wasn't it? She went to
No, at Eastminster. They were both in preschool at Eastminster.
Oh, well, I know they were. Yeah, they were at preschool there at Eastminster. There was a place you used to go.
Lab school for both kids.
What?
Lab school.
Lab school.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to. And that
Before
was
that.
at the Christian church there, wasn't it?
For Dex, the first time it was at a Nazarene church in Palm Bay, and then it moved to First Christian Church of Melbourne Disciples of Christ.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
both of them. Yeah.
And that's a good experience, and they learn well. They're both so smart little kids. And then when Derica started kindergarten, I just remember her being the neighborhood where we lived. I lived down just a couple doors down from where they lived. Darwin and I moved over there later, after they had moved into their home on Sheridan Lakes, and on Sorrento Drive. And
Circle, yeah.
Yeah, and Darwin and I rented a home, two doors wasn't it? South of, or near them. And so I was down there a lot with them too, and Darwin was too. And they both used to play. Derica was toddling around at that time, and of course we had to watch her, you know, more. And Dex was running all over he had a lot of little friends that he played with right there. There wasn't much traffic on that street at that time, like there is today. It was a nice place to raise little kids. It was a nice subdivision, and
Dex's closest friend there was Grant Derrick.
Yes, right across the street, and
From you, yeah.
Yeah, he had several little friends that he played with, and they were so cute. And they all had these little cars that would were they electric?
They had batteries.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so they would ride up and down the street, you know. Of course, there was always an adult out there, and we'd say, you know, look out, a car's coming, get out of the street, you know, all the time. And they would play out there so much, and in each other's yards, and they had, it was an ideal situation for little kids, with all the neighborhood children, and it was just so nice for them. And they were all the houses were close together, and there were always parents around watching, you know, and it was a safe place for the little kids. And there were a lot of little kids about the same age as Dex and Derica too. Dex and Derica are 3 years apart, isn't that correct?
3.5.
3.5. Yeah. And so at Christmas time, we always got them lots of toys, and they always had wonderful Christmases. We got them a lot, and of course Doris and Don did too, so they doubled up on everything there. And at Easter time, we used to hide the eggs in the backyard there at that first home where you lived there after they were born, and we'd go out there, and of course it's a fenced in yard, and so, you know, it was safe, and we'd go out there and they'd hunt their Easter eggs. And then we always went to church. We always they were in church when they were born, and in the nursery and places like that, and the church would always have a big Easter celebration on the Saturday before Easter. and the kids would play, and they had little activities that they did, and then of course they had a big egg hunt and things like that. So both children grew up doing that, and then have a big hot dog lunch. Wonderful church. And then when Derica was in the same preschools that Dex was in, and
Preschool, yeah.
she learned. She's smart little thing. They both are, both just real smart people. And Derica, she picks up things quicker than anybody I know as far as knowledge and things, how to do things. I mean, to this day, she's an expert on computers. Everything else, you know, she just knows how to do everything. And Dex does too. Dex just as bright and smart as she is, and I'll tell you, they're just wonderful kids. So
Anything else about Derica?
well, I was trying to think what all we did with her. Of course, she always looked like a little doll everywhere she went. Had all kinds of pretty little dresses from all of us, both grandmas and her parents. And Darwin enjoyed her so much. He used to love to be with her and play with her too. And Dex was more rowdy, more of a boy, you know. Darwin liked that because they were, you know, rough house and play like that. And then Dex, of course, was riding his bicycle, and Derica had a little pink car that she rode around in.
Barbie Jeep.
It was cute, and again, you know, I was working, I think, wasn't I?
By the time you moved over here, you had retired, and you'll talk about
Okay.
that when you're done with Derica.
Okay, all right. And, you know, I just remember her being around and dressing her up and giving her a bath and, you know, and doing all the fun things that a grandma does. And
You're the one that potty
reading to
trained her.
them. Pardon?
You're the one that potty trained her
Oh, yeah, I
before
forgot
she went
about
to
that. Yeah,
preschool. Yeah.
yeah, she was going, and they wouldn't let her go to preschool if she couldn't be potty trained. And she just refused. I mean, she wasn't at all interested. It wasn't that she refused, she just wasn't interested in it. And so
She
I
was
guess I was
3.
with her one day, and I don't know now what I did. I don't know how to get her. how I
You,
got her to do it.
we were at one of my continuing education conferences, and you were watching the kids, and so we were gone Friday through Sunday, and you just kept telling her all weekend that she needs to use the big girl potty or she can't go to school on Monday, and it worked.
I had forgotten all about that. Yeah, she did fine. Never had any problem after that. Went right when she finally decided it's time to do it. I'm not a baby anymore. I've got to grow up.
Do you want to be the one to tell the story about the incredible exploding girl?
Maybe you better
You,
tell that.
you got the joy of cleaning up the room
Yeah,
as I
well,
took care of her.
Derica was always so neat and never really caused much of a problem. They always had toys.
She was messier than Dex.
Was she?
Dex was the neat one, and
Yeah,
Derica.
Dex
Dex
always-
is the neat one, and
Yeah,
Derica's the
he's
messy
always
one.
been neat. But, so anyway, I was at home one day and Doris, again, 2 doors down from them, and Doris calls me, she says, Mom, can you come here and help me? Derica got sick in her crib, and I thought, oh my gosh, and so I went down there, and that room was,
Looked like The
walls, the
Exorcist.
floors, every place was just covered with,
Both
well,
ends.
vomit and feces.
We're not quite sure what happened.
Yeah, we didn't see it happen. And Derica had been in her crib, and she just really, and Doris always called it the incredible and exploding girl, because that's what it looked like. And
She was very, very sick. She had a fever.
bless her
And
little heart. And so anyway, Doris took her out of there and gave her a bath and everything, and I started in cleaning up, and with maybe 15 or 20 curse words that were, and my curse words usually consisted of one word, shit. And, but anyway, I spent the day saying that and working in it up to my elbows, and so that was quite an ordeal. But anyway, or fortunately, Derica didn't say that word until much later. I'm
But
sure
she doesn't cuss. Dex does
Dex
sometimes.
did some, and
But she
Doris-
doesn't.
Doris would get after me because, and you know, I would, that was always my word when I was frustrated and when something happened and it slipped out all the time back then. And today I've kind of conquered that. But when they were little, and I think maybe Dex said it a few times or something, and so you got on him about that, and he never did, they never did do that. Thank goodness.
No, Dex.
And I tried to
Dex
straighten
does
up.
cuss.
He does.
Yeah.
Well, that's guys today. But anyway, let's see, while we were living at Sheridan Lakes, Dex, of course, learned to ride a bicycle. And we got him a bicycle and learned to ride a bike. He had training wheels for a while and got along fine on that. And then when did Derica get her bicycle? Was that not?
I don't know when she got it, but she didn't learn how to ride it till right after we moved here.
Yeah, I was thinking that. I didn't
to
know.
Northwest Palm Bay.
Yeah, I think we had tried to get her to ride it, and she wouldn't up there. And Sheridan Lakes would have been the, because we had nice sidewalks too. That would have been a nice place for her to do that. She played with a little girl across the street.
Brooke Derek, that's
Yeah. And,
Grant's younger
and,
sister.
Yeah, Dex played with one of her. She had two brothers. One was a lot older, and he played with Grant, the next brother or the next sibling,
Middle child.
and then Brooke was the youngest, and they were friends for a while. And then Derek had a couple of other little girlfriends from that neighborhood.
Yeah,
too.
there was a girl directly across the street that she played with sometimes, the Diamato child. I don't remember her first name. Tyler. And then catty corner to the right across the street were Zoe and Kesa. And
No, they were more Dex's age.
Zoe was a year older than Dex and Kesa was a year older than Derica. So they play with them sometimes. But Derica, other than Brooke, probably spent the most time with Christian, Big Christian. His family was from Honduras, I think, and they lived next to you or 2 doors down from you. I think they lived
Something like that.
2 doors down from you.
Yeah. Real
And
nice
he
people.
was a cute little kid.
Yeah. So I didn't remember that she played a lot with him.
Yeah, probably played with him the most out of everybody in the neighborhood. And
Wasn't
then
he was a little older
Brooke,
than her?
no, same age.
Oh, he was.
Yeah, and a year behind maybe.
Okay. Well, now there was a big,
Christian.
big Christian and a
And
little
Christian.
Christian.
Little Christian was a few years younger than them, lived on the other side of us. That was Missy's son, Roblinski, and she lived with her parents.
Okay, I remember now,
Yeah. He was kind of too small to play.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and it was such a nice neighborhood for the children, it really was. It was nice for all of us. And we watched them carefully because we lived on a lake, so we wanted to make sure that they didn't toddle off into the lake.
They knew not to do that.
And Doris and Don for a while had a trampoline, and they and their friends loved that. They were on it a lot, and they had a swing set that they all did a lot of swinging on, and then they had some pools, little play pools. They all
And
had a good time there.
Little plastic log cabin.
Oh yeah, we brought that to him, didn't we?
I think
It
so.
was the cutest thing. It was one of these plastic structures that kids can play. It's a playhouse that they can play inside of. And Darwin and I brought him it was a log cabin. It was the cutest thing.
And then later you
And
got a little pink house for
We got
Derica.
a little dainty little house for a little girl. Yeah. And in fact, we had one of those in our backyard at Dunedin for quite a while. But over there, our backyard was a wooded backyard, and Doris was always afraid to let them play in it over there because she was afraid they'd get spider bit or something. And of because it was on, you know, those little houses don't have a bottom in them, and did Darwin put one in them? I think he put one in them.
I don't know.
I don't know. Anyway.
I didn't think so.
Okay, I don't remember. And, and let's see, we always took lots of pictures of them doing everything under the sun. Oh, and Dex would, at the first house when he was you know, a little kid, he would climb the fence and look out at there were neighbor girls right behind
We
him.
had 3 neighbor girls catty
Yeah.
corner to behind
Okay.
us, yeah.
And they were older, a little older, but they'd play out in their backyard, and Dex would climb the fence and watch them.
They'd come over and play with him sometimes.
It was cute.
They were a little bit older,
Yeah.
but mainly in the first house, well, the second house Dex lived in. First house Dex lived in was Alpine, out in also northwest Palm Bay, but further out from where we live now.
He was pretty little when you moved from
Yeah,
there, though.
and when he was about 6 months or a year, we moved away from that to northeast Palm Bay. And in northeast Palm Bay, his closest friend was Bobby, the 70-year-old woman next door.
Yes.
And Bobby had a husband named William who had Alzheimer's. And so, but he was a very
That's right.
tall man, very peaceful. And so Dex would go over and visit with Bobby and watch William. William he was in the Navy, and he would watch William pretend to tie knots all day.
Oh, really?
And then eventually William went into a nursing home. But yeah, I'm sure Bobby's long gone now, but at the time,
Yeah, Dex really liked
Bobby
him.
and Dex were pretty close.
Yeah, yeah. And I was thinking of something else just when we were talking, something else that Dex did. Maybe I'll think of it later. And Derica was always pretty calm and mild-mannered and didn't get in trouble or anything like that. Dex was always big, out running around the neighborhood. He didn't run off or anything like that.
No,
he was always out playing with his friends.
But he always stayed around
Well,
the
yeah,
house.
he stayed in the yard.
Was very disciplined.
Yeah.
Derica was a little more adventurous, but he was the extrovert and she was the introvert. Well, not so much as a child. As a child, she was performer and more extroverted. But as she, got older, she became more of an introvert. He's still an extrovert.
Yeah,
He's
Derica-
still high energy, and she's more sedate.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, he's very high energy. He gets a lot done. Derica would always want to perform. She was performing from when she first took her steps.
Sing and dance and act.
And, yeah, and we'd come and visit them, and we'd be watching television, and before you knew it, she was right in front of the TV dancing and performing and doing all kinds of things. And I told Doris one day, I said, Doris, you're gonna have to give her dance lessons so she'll know what she's doing. And she did for many, many years. Derica did dance and achieved greatly in it. She's a beautiful dancer today, a ballet dancer, and she does all kinds of dancing.
Her and Dex both were on
And Dex, yeah. Dex
in
didn't,
the dance company.
yeah. And Dex didn't start though when Derica did.
They started at the same time, but he was older.
Oh, I thought he waited. Well, he did wait.
But
in that regard, but I thought he waited a little while.
For the
after.
first year, he only took hip hop,
Yeah.
boys hip hop,
That was so cute.
and she took more.
And they both did so well in all of that. They were just so cute and so talented. They really did a good job, both of them. Even not just last year, wasn't it? It had been, what, a year since Dex had even danced.
2 years.
And the people at church wanted Derica to dance, and they wanted her to get Dex to dance with her, because they used to dance together at our church as teenagers.
And it was a young adult service.
And so anyway, Derica convinced him. She said, I'll choreograph it.
Christy convinced him.
Oh,
Pastor Christy.
I see. Well, I thought maybe it was up to Derica to get him.
Pastor Christy told him that he would have more of a scholarship to Montreat if he would dance.
And he loves Montreat.
Yeah.
So anyway, Derica taught him, Derica is good at choreographing, and she taught him the dance, I think, in an hour or two, you know, and he hadn't even danced. And they did a beautiful job. He did his part like he always did, and they really did a good job. It was a ballet type.
It was liturgical dance, but also lyrical, which uses ballet.
Type
Yeah.
of dance, right. And so anyway, we wish that he would have stayed, but he quit, how many years ago now? It's been a while.
Well, he was in company through his senior year of high school,
Was he? Yeah.
but he's been out of high school.
He always did a good job, and everybody just loved to see him dance because he's so smooth with it.
He's strong.
Yeah, of course, he had to lift the girls, you know, it's a ballet, so there are a lot of girls with him, and he had to lift them around and toss them and do all of that, plus the dance steps and the turning and everything that you do when you do that kind of dancing. And I kind of hated to see him stop, but I could understand why he wanted to. He had one kid, maybe more than that, but at least one that we know about that tried to tease him about it, you know, to make fun of him for dancing.
In middle school.
Yeah, and that's the time, you know, that's done. But anyway, Dex told him, he said, I'm probably the only one that gets to pick all of your girls up and hold them.
Well.
All of your girlfriends up. And hold them, so anyway. So that shut the kid up.
And Dex and Derica did a lot of singing.
Yeah, they did. And Dex has a beautiful voice. It's a crooner type voice. It's a beautiful voice. They've sung at church a lot and performed at other places a lot. And of course, Derica, her voice was always high soprano and just beautiful. And now that she's older, she can sing much lower too. She's got just a beautiful voice. They both do. And Dex won't perform anywhere now. He's done with performing. But he sure did. And what got him started in dance, I thought, was when Derica, we had taken Derica to one of the dance workshops or competitions over in Orlando or somewhere. They would travel to go to those, and it was always lots of fun with thousands, it seemed like hundreds of dancers, kids, all having a good time and all doing different things and competing and all of this. And Dex went as an observer, you know, of course, because he wasn't involved. And he told me after that, he said, that was really fun. He said, I think I could go into dancing because of that, because it was such fun, you know. And he always did like those competitions and those things. And, so in grade school, Derica achieved, Dex achieved, and they both did well. Derica's kindergarten teacher didn't want her to go, wanted her to go ahead into second grade, wasn't it? At the end of kindergarten,
Mm-hmm.
because she was
And
smart.
her preschool teacher, when she was 3, wanted to put her in kindergarten.
Really?
And Brevard Public School said no.
Yeah, pretty young.
And so then when she went into kindergarten, she wanted to skip her to, because her kindergarten teacher had a doctorate.
Yeah.
And she was the only one there with a doctorate. And she wanted to skip Derica ahead to second grade.
And Doris and Don weren't too enthused over that because they wanted her to have
I
a
was,
regular
but Don-
education. Yeah.
Don was not, because Don was also asked to skip when he was in grade school, and his father didn't want him to. He thought he would fall behind socially.
Yeah, yeah. And that happens. That does happen sometimes. So did he, though, when in first grade, though, Derica took half a year first grade and half a year second grade?
Yes, and then went on to third grade.
And then went on to third grade, yeah. So that shows you that she was pretty bright. And and she's always succeeded and did well, and was good in art, was good in music, and was good in
Math.
especially math and and things like that. And Dex, he didn't go into those things, but he was very good and very artistic in everything he did. And just
They were
really-
both in, are you still in grade school?
Yeah,
I was gonna say
yes.
they were both in choirs
Oh, in grade school.
in school. Yeah, Derica more than Dex. I think there were more choir opportunities for her.
Yeah.
They were both in choirs all through school.
Well, usually the elementary music department had different classes would perform every year too. And so,
Dex was more into Legos and Lego robotics and that kind of stuff. Elementary and middle school.
and you could take it from there, Doris, as far
As the kids go, yeah.
Yeah.
Talk about retiring.
Okay.
What was that experience like for you?
All right. Well, let me just say that following Dex and Derica both through school was a great enjoyment to both Darwin and I. We always felt so fortunate that we retired and moved over here so that we could see those kids grow up, because we had a lot of friends, that we knew all along down here in Florida who didn't even know their own grandchildren, because they lived in other countries or they lived in other states, and they saw them like once a year, if then. And we always said, when we retire, when we have the opportunity, we're going to move to where Doris and Dawn are, because we knew their jobs couldn't come to us, and we did. And they were nice enough to accept us and to put up with us down the street.
Well, you were a big help.
bothering them. But we did that. We wanted to be, of course, with Doris and Dawn. We always had a good relationship with them, but also we wanted to be around to see those children grow up. And it was a wonderful, wonderful experience because we got to see them go to the PTA performances or the school performances and the church. Everything that we did, we all went to church together, and the things that they did at church, and we got to experience that, which is what my grandparents got to do when I was growing up. But when Doris was growing up, we were too far away. We lived here in Florida, and my parents were in Illinois, and we saw them, like once or twice a year. They would come to visit us, and we would go up there occasionally, but not very often, because it was a long way, a long trip, and none of us had a tremendous amount of money to spend.
And your parents are getting older.
And yeah, they were getting older, but they did travel a lot during those years. And so anyway, Darwin and I always felt privileged to have been a part of Dex and Derica's childhood, which so many people never have that privilege. And it's a privilege for the children. I'm so thankful that Dex and Derica got to experience Darwin and I as we got older, because to this day they're loving they were to Darwin when he was still alive, and they're loving to me. They care about me, and they're concerned with me, and they're with me when they can be. They're busy with their lives, but I'm thankful for that. And I was lucky that way, because I lived a couple miles from where my grandparents both lived, both sets of my grandparents, and I had that opportunity to see them all the time. And I always grew up knowing that older people were valuable, and older people were loving and kind, and I enjoyed going to my grandparents' home and visiting all the time and staying with them when I could. And so many children don't have that opportunity when they move so far away. And Doris, we were in Illinois the whole time she was a little girl, and so she got to be with
Until I was
Darwin's
15,
parents
yeah.
had passed away, but she got to be with my parents a lot, and they visited us quite frequently, even though we lived about three hours away.
4.
Well, part of the time 4 hours, and then you and I lived 2.5 to 3 hours away, and so Doris got to And when Darwin and I separated, when Doris was
5 through 8.
5 years old.
5 through 8, yeah.
Okay.
Or 5 through 7.
When Darwin and I separated for a while, and the Doris and we stayed at Mother and Dad's for a little while. Doris and I did.
Yeah, you
and
talked
I
about
got a
that.
job teaching in another town, and but we still communicated and were close to Mother and Dad and went there a lot. We were there a lot of weekends, and we were also near my one sister at that time, Linda, and her family in Monticello, which was closer, like a 40-minute drive from where we lived. And so Doris got to play with her cousins and would have never gotten to know them well, you know, had it not been for that happening. And so, but Dex and Derica didn't get to know any of their cousins much. Dawn's...
Well, they only have 2, yeah.
What do you mean?
Dex and Derica only have 2 cousins, Kiera and Angel.
Well, what about Linda's kids?
They're my cousins.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And yeah, that's true. And they didn't get to know Kiera and Angel very well either,
No.
because they weren't around. Yeah, so they didn't have that opportunity like I had. I knew my cousins were like my brothers and sisters almost.
And Kiera and Angel are, you know, 5 to 10 years older than they are.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and most of my cousins were younger than me when I was growing up, but more like my sister's age, and so they've always been closer. But I was close to my one cousin. He was a boy, and I was with him a lot. It was like having a brother almost when I grew up. And so Doris then didn't get to have that opportunity of the cousins either. Bless her heart, she kind of got left out of all of that, didn't you?
I mean, when we lived in Illinois, we would see them on holidays, that kind of thing.
But it wasn't.
We didn't live in the same
Yeah,
town.
right.
And then when we moved to Florida, high school on, I never saw them.
Yeah. Anytime you move away, things change.
Yep.
And you never have the same memories and the same situation.
And Don had the same experience with his dad's side of the family.
Yeah. So it's never the same, and that's unfortunate, because the extended family is an important thing to have around. It was wonderful for me as a child, and it would have been wonderful for Doris if she could have been closer to hers, because she had a couple cousins about her age, girls, and that was all she had. And then when we lived,
Jeff and Ryan.
yeah, when we lived, we visited when we were, Doris and I were at Mother and Dad's a lot.
And Dee.
When Doris was 5 to 8 years old, and my other sister, and her family lived in a town nearby. And she had 2 little boys, and Doris got to know them, and that was nice. They played together well and a lot back then. Too bad. And then, of course, we all moved again, and so moving, it's too bad that you can't just keep your family structured, but you can't. And so, anyway,
When and why did you decide to retire when you were living in Dunedin?
well, I was 62, and I just decided it was time to go. I loved teaching. Every day was exciting, and every day was different. Every minute of every day was different.
You were a very
And
creative
I
teacher.
really enjoyed teaching, and so I thought fairly good students. I had some really bad ones too, but that's the way it is, and you just learn to deal with them. And I felt that I did a pretty good job with my students, and but I hadn't planned to retire that time. Even though I was close, I debated about waiting until I was 65 to retire to draw full benefits. And I talked to Yvonne, which was Darwin's older sister, and we were talking about that one day, and she said she retired at 62 or whatever, and she just decided she didn't think that she lost that much in her benefits, and she said eventually you get it back anyway. It works around like that, and and I thought, well, maybe I should do something like that. Not that I had to do that. I mean, she was a lot older than I was, but, you know, I just hadn't talked to anybody about it. And so anyway, I had decided to retire, and one of the girls, I was thinking about it, and one of the girls, a good friend of mine that taught down the hallway from me, she was a math teacher. I was surrounded by math teachers in that hallway. And, she came in one day before school, she said, Judy, I've got to tell you something. She said, I'm gonna retire. And I said, you are? You know, I said, I am too.
From
And
Palm
I
Harbor
hadn't
Middle
even
School.
thought about it, except thinking in the terms that I had been, about maybe that was the time, you know, talking to Yvonne about it. And when she said that, I thought, I could do that too. And so she and I both retired that same year then. And so after I retired, we decided that Darwin had already been semi-retired for quite a while. He was slowing down. And he had a good business of tax abatement, which he could do at his own speed and whenever he wanted to, and it paid well. And so we lived in a beautiful home that we owned in Dunedin, and so we decided we'd put that house up for sale and sell about half of everything we owned, and move over to
West Melbourne.
yeah, where Doris and Don lived. And Doris called us one day and said, well, there's a house to rent, and it was a new subdivision. The homes were brand new. And she said, there's a house for rent just 2 doors down from us. And so Darwin says, we'll take it. I said, well, now wait a minute, we need to see what it's like. And so, of course, we would go over there quite often, and when we did, why, we told them we'd take the house. But then that was in June, and we didn't move here until October of that year, just tying up everything, loose ends and all of that, but, and then gradually moving here and there, you know, putting some things over there. And, so, we were happy to be able to do that. And, what else you want me to tell about?
So retiring, and then your experience in West Melbourne.
Well, it was nice living in West Melbourne. Of course, we were close to Doris and Don. However, they were very busy. They were both working, but like I said earlier, I got to babysit quite a bit, and Darwin too, and that was nice. And we enjoyed walking around that neighborhood, and like I said, it was a safe neighborhood.
Your house was right to the edge of the middle of the lake, which was beautiful.
Yeah, we had a real nice lakeside view, and we enjoyed that. And we had big lanai, and we were out there all the time. And we had a kitty cat, and just really had a nice home there. Enjoyed it. And Dex and Derica were nearby, and then of course they were busy in school, in preschool and in school at the time. But we were able to go to a lot of the school activities that they were in and see the art projects and things that they did, and the music programs and everything, and we thoroughly enjoyed all of that, and so it was wonderful, wonderful, perfect existence, right?
And we went to church together.
Yeah, went to church together, and I had taught Bible school, I don't know, 2 or 3 years maybe, and there, and then of course remember when we lived at Potomac, I directed the Bible school one year, and you went to in our church there, which was a Nazarene church. You went to Bible school there. And I did the same thing with Doris, going to all their activities. Of course, I taught in the same school that she went to at that time, and right down the hall from where she went to class. And all the kids were let in at a certain time, and all the teachers would be out in the hall, and Doris would walk by every day and say, "Hi, Mom." It was so cute. And then, so back to the grandchildren.
Well, you were talking about your experience in West Melbourne,
Yeah.
living in West Melbourne.
I didn't substitute over here. I had
Mhm.
retired. I didn't substitute, and In fact, my principal told me, he said, I'll give you a year and you'll be back teaching. And I probably would have been. However, Darwin got sick. We were here about 3 or 4 months. And he came down with Guillain-Barré.
And we'll get into him.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so that stopped the situation there. I was needed at home to take care of him, and it was God's timing. It was perfect timing because, had I been working or had we stayed over in Dunedin or whatever, it would have been very difficult for us, because this way, with him being so sick and hospitalized, he was hospitalized for 20-some days, I believe, and he was in 2 hospitals. He was in Wusthof Hospital here in Melbourne, and then he was at Sea Pines Rehabilitation Hospital too for quite a number of months.
Palm
And
Bay,
so
yeah.
it was.
Also Melbourne, I guess.
Yeah, I think it was Melbourne, and so it was kind of hard on him. But I was fortunate to have the support of Doris and Dawn, and of course the children, and we would go quite regularly to visit Darwin, either in the hospital or at Sea Pines. And Sea Pines had a real nice screened-in patio area there, and we would go out and the kids would play out there and take him out in a wheelchair. They liked to ride with him on the wheelchair, and so it was nice, and it was nice for Darwin too. And,
But I do remember that you volunteered at
yeah, I did.
the school libraries.
I volunteered at
Meadow Lane Library.
Lane Middle School, or no, elementary. No,
yeah.
It was middle school, the middle school.
Meadow Lane Elementary Library for most of the time, and then I think you did a little bit of volunteering in the middle school library.
Yeah, okay. And that was nice. I had a nice teacher that I helped and worked with, and I had a lot of kids that I worked with individually too, because I had been a remedial reading teacher and things like that. So
I think it was technically Meadow Lane Intermediate where you started.
That's true. I was thinking it wasn't strictly elementary, because they weren't little kids.
Well, because
Yeah.
Meadow Lane was 2 different schools.
Yeah, intermediate, Meadow Lane Intermediate, yeah. And it was a nice experience. I enjoyed it. And I worked very hard in that library. I mean, that was hard work. And I enjoyed it, but it was very hard work. Working in a library takes a lot of time, because everything has to be put back just right. Kids are not good at doing that. And I had to do all of that. I had to get the books checked in and checked out, and there's a lot to it. And but I enjoyed it. And I worked, not just maybe half days, and maybe a couple days a week, I think, maybe, not too much. And that was nice. And at that time, Darwin was still getting well. He was at home, but he was still getting well.
And you joined DAR when you lived in West Melbourne.
Yeah. Been in DAR for 8 or 10 years now.
The Abigail Wright Chamberlain chapter.
Yeah.
And you got me into it, and now
Yeah.
I'm chaplain.
And what?
Now I'm chaplain.
Oh, yes, chaplain, and on the board of directors, and Doris is doing fine. I refused to do that. After having taught school for so many years and doing all of the PTA stuff and preparing the kids for exams and all of that stuff, I decided I just wanted to relax. And but I did in DAR, they wanted me to do something. They'd asked me to be on, an officer or whatever, and I always refused it. But finally, I took the job of being a Women's Issues Committee person, which meant a month, at each monthly meeting, it meant a report that I was to give. And they gave me a lot of freedom in that, and I enjoy a lot of history, so I did a lot of reporting, and I read it to them, or I tell them what I had learned of women throughout history, the various issues that they were involved in, and I still do that to this day, and I enjoyed it. So Now, where shall I go?
If you feel like you've covered West Melbourne, like living in West, do you want to talk about the house at all?
Well, it was a lovely little home, and Doris and Don had a beautiful 2-story home right down the street. And they were all new homes, and just, we had, ours would, no, I shouldn't say that. There were a lot of 2-story homes in the neighborhood. Doris and Don had a 2-story home. Darwin and I had just a 1-story home, but we enjoyed it. It was a nice, convenient home, and it wasn't a huge home, but it was a nice home.
3-bedroom.
Really enjoyed it, yeah. And all of our stuff fit in it just fine, because we had gotten rid of so much. The house in Dunedin had been a very large home, and so we got rid of a lot of our stuff from then. And so I enjoyed living in Sheridan Lakes. I had some nice neighbors and enjoyed visiting back and forth with them a little. And Darwin and I just, we weren't real social people. And so, we enjoyed going to movies and going out to eat and taking the family out and taking the kids out. I remember the first time Dex ever went to a pizza joint. It was so cute. He was little. He was 4 or 5 years old, I guess. And I don't know if he had even started kindergarten yet. Probably had. But anyway, we went to this one, and I don't even know the name of it. We went to this down in
CC's?
Palm Bay. We were taking care of him. We didn't have Derica with us, but it was surely after she was born. I don't know. He wasn't very big. Anyway, we went to this pizza place, and it happened to be a night when they were at that place. They were celebrating something, and the place was just packed with families and kids. Noise, so noisy and loud. And so we sat down at the table, and Dex was sitting in one of those little seats there, and I was watching him, and he was so fascinated. His eyes were as big as saucers, and he was so fascinated with everything that was going on in that room,
He was probably younger than 4.
He must have been. Maybe it was before you had Derica, or she might have been a baby at the time. And anyway, it was so cute the way he reacted to it. He thoroughly enjoyed it, but he was in shock. He really was. He didn't have much to say, but he sure did look around. And he enjoyed it, and he liked the pizza. He enjoyed the pizza. I don't know if he had pizza before that or not, Doris. Do you suppose he had?
Probably.
And, yeah. Okay. So anyway, all right, and then as we talk, see, that reminds me of things that, even though I think through this beforehand, I don't remember those things. I told Doris before that I really should sit here with photographs in front of me, because that would show me
Well,
interesting things. Well, maybe, but that would show me my photographs, in other words, some interesting things that I went through with the kids. And we always went to Dex's activities, his Lego things that we went
Robotics.
to. Those are competitions and the Christmas programs and everything when they sang, both kids. And of course, we always went to, when they were dancing then, we always went to all of their dance rehearsals and went to a lot of their classes. I would take them sometimes when Dawn couldn't usually, but when Doris couldn't take them, they were both busy with their jobs. And I thoroughly enjoyed watching those little kids learn to dance. And then when they had their big recitals, we of course were always there. And we always went out to eat a lot. Every Sunday after church, we would go out and have lunch. We did that back when Doris was a baby or little, and go out to different places to have lunch together on Sunday, and that was always nice because we were always dressed up at the time too, so it was special. And then, and we still continue to do that. Dex was involved in Little League for a little while, a year, a season, I think, T-ball.
No, he
no.
played actual baseball.
Okay.
Yeah, for one season.
That was really thrilling for Darwin too.
And he played summer basketball
Oh yeah, I forgot about
at
basketball.
Florida Tech.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And they were both in gymnastics.
yeah. Okay.
And Derica was in, actually they were both in several musicals. And Derica was in Odyssey of the Mind and
Yeah.
Future Problem Solvers.
So they did a lot of things, and we got to participate in all of that.
Dex was in All Star Sports.
Yeah. And same way with Doris when she was growing up. We did the same things with her. She was involved in a lot of things.
Dex was junior zookeeper. Well, if you think you've covered through West Melbourne, why don't we stop, and then next time we'll have you start with when Dad kind of got sick. Describe that experience.
Well, I told a little bit about that.
A little bit.
already.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.